This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I celebrate the 4th of July. We do that by talking about, well, America's pastime. We talk about baseball, specifically the MLB All-Star Game. We discuss the Home Run Derby. We discuss who should have been on the All-Star teams and who probably deserved not to be on them. And then we talk about the NBA offseason. We talk about the moves that we liked, the moves we didn't like. And ultimately, we discuss the top 5 things that should happen on every 4th of July weekend. All that and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh. We're wishing you a very happy belated 4th of July. We hope you had a great time with friends and family. I'm here in Europe, so we don't really celebrate 4th of July over here. But Josh, how did you enjoy your 4th of July, and what did you do? Did you kind of go out to the lake? Did you do some firework watching? What did you do? Did you light fireworks?
I didn't light any, but did kick the weekend off going up to the Warren Dunes in Michigan, camped there Saturday night, hung out for a little bit Sunday, and then on actual 4th of July on Tuesday, a friend had a cookout. We went out there, played a little bit of cornhole, played a little bit of spike ball, watched fireworks over Lake Erie at the end of the evening. Pretty solid day, pretty typical 4th of July celebration, I would guess, in America. What's it like over in Hungary, Ben? I'm sure they're not celebrating American independence, but does Hungary have an equivalent where they're celebrating the birth of the country or anything like that? Or just a Hungarian Pride Day?
I tell people that Hungary celebrates anything that they can consider a holiday. Like it just feels like we have 30 holidays over here. No, August 20th is similar to the July 4th. So fireworks, dude, it is nuts. If you come over here in the time, Josh, I will show you. It's pretty fascinating. But everyone pretty much in Budapest lines the river, and you just watch fireworks. There's celebrations. There's people out, enjoying different foods and things like that. And different people are selling items. And it's not the same, but that is probably the most equivalent to a 4th of July. And it is kind of the birth of the country. It talks about the birth of the country and all that fun stuff that comes with it. So it is very fascinating because whenever I talk about 4th of July, the only thing I can compare it to for Hungarians to understand is their August 20th. So it is fascinating because they're like, you Americans sometimes are a little crazy. I'm like, yeah, we like our fireworks just a little bit.
We like our fireworks. So trivia question, Ben. America was born in 1776.
Yes.
When was Hungary born?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. It was, I believe, hold on. It was 870 something. Hold on, I'll double check my math.
70 something. Okay.
Yeah, so that's like we're not saying 8. It's AD. So not like BC. Let me look.
I don't know either, so I was just asking.
Yeah. So I know it was because it was before. It was, I was close. 895. It was 895. They became a Christian, so they became a principality, which is basically like the forming from. So they moved from like Mongolia area, and they were tribes, and then formed something, and then in 1000, December 25th, 1000, they became a Christian kingdom. So they became a more of a Catholic kingdom. People don't realize that Hungary was a lot bigger than they are now. So if people don't know that, like Romania, Austria, Ukraine, Serbia, I'm trying to think of the other countries, Slovenia, I think a little bit maybe. Anyways, there's a bunch of countries that used to be Hungary, and then they, because of stupid treaties that were done by stupid people, they've just shrunk down to what we know Hungary is now. So fun fact, that is your Hungarian fact of the day. But moving on to sports, Josh, it's a weird time of the year, Josh, because the only things really going on in the sports world are some soccer stuff, occasionally some transfer news in soccer, which, by the way, Liverpool just signed the biggest transfer for any Hungarian player, Dominik Szoboszlai. He is like the hottest midfielder out there in the market, and he's now going to Liverpool. Pretty cool. Well, maybe we'll get Jared's take on that at some point. But other than that, man, what we have NBA free agency. We have the summer league, which, I'm sorry, people that get hyped about the summer league, good to you. It's just not entertaining to me. And then we have MLB games obviously going on. And then you have NFL coming up here soon, college football and all that coming up. So, Josh, where are we starting with this kind of the weird time of the year. What are we going to be talking about today?
Man, so Monday we got the home run derby and Tuesday the
True.
All-Star game, and we got the rosters set for the most part. We might have a
Awful.
couple replacements because of injuries,
Awful.
but for the most part, we know what the rosters are going to look like. And I'm sure you got bones to pick with guys
100%.
left off,
100%.
as do I. So who would you like to make a case for first?
Because this is what I'll say. I think overall the fans did a pretty good job on the starters. I think you can agree with that. I think the starters for the most part are pretty easy, set in stone. Like I was even looking at the National League starters. There's not really any that I would gripe with. Maybe Orlando Arcia as a starter.
Yeah, I think
weird.
that's Braves fans just
yes
showing up for
that
their
one,
team, which is 30 games over 500.
Yeah. Arcia was a weird one. Maybe even Sean Murphy a little bit at catcher. Even if you look at the American League, I don't really have any real big issues. The only one that really pops up to mind is, Josh Jung. Is he deserving of a starting spot? I mean, I think he is an all-star, but is he deserving of a starting spot? That's a question. As well as I think one thing they did do right was getting Shohei Ohtani as both a pitcher and a DH, because I think he deserved that. But if you look at the reserves, I think for the American League, nothing pops out other than the fact that I think it was interesting to me. I think Jose Ramirez should have deserved, I think, the starting spot instead of Josh Jung. I think you just swap those two. That's just my opinion after watching kind of over the last few weeks and a month or so. Obviously, Winder Franco, who was going to be a huge bust, I think, for everyone around here, but he's obviously going to be a replacement for Aaron Judge.
Yes.
So that kind of changes.
So they got that right.
Yeah, they got that right. Jordan Alvarez, if he didn't make it again, I would have just been like, what is going on? But he's obviously also not playing because he's injured. So they're going to have a replacement for him, which is Julio Rodriguez, which, okay, maybe I understand that one. I'm not quite sure on that yet. Kyle Tucker replaces Mike Trout, and then Brent Rooker, because he's the Athletics, and you had to find somebody to put in there, and so they chose him.
Yeah.
Now for the National League, this is where I get a little frustrated. Now, as a Reds fan, people are going to be hounding us in the comments. Like, Ben, you said the Reds have sucked for the last 3 years, and you know what? They have. So I have every right to say that. And again, I've never been overhyped about them, even when they've been going on this win streak. Again, Josh, I've never said like they're going to go win the World Series now. I've never said that. I've said that they've had a quality year. We'll see how far they make in the play, if they make to the playoffs, and how far they will go. One thing I have said is that this rookie group that the Reds have has been phenomenal. Ellie De La Cruz coming up, Matt McClain, Spencer Steer. I can go on. Abbott pitching, and all these different things. Now the Reds their only invitee, their only guy that got to the All-Star game is Diaz, right? The closer, who's had a great year. Alexi Diaz has had an amazing year. But I look at this reserves, and I can go Will Smith, makes sense. Probably should be starting, right? Elias Diaz. Okay, it's the Rockies. You had to put someone in there, right? And I'll get to this whole everyone deserves a team, because Josh and I are on different wavelengths with that. Matt Olson deserved it. His average is not great, but he's hit a bunch of bombs. P. Alonso, same thing. Ozzy Albies deserves to be in there. Austin Riley. Dansby Swanson. Yeah, you could probably say that. Lourdes Gurriel. That's a iffy one. Nick Castellanos, again, another one that's I think on the line. Juan Soto. And then Jorge Soler is the one I disagree with, because I think as a DH, you put Spencer Steer. Because I say this, Spencer Steer, if you look at his numbers, he has 14 home runs. He has over 50 RBIs. He has an on-base percentage of about 370, around 370. He has been tremendous all over the field. He's played left field. He's played third base. He's played first base. He's played right field. He's DH'd, right? He's done everything you can ask for a Reds team that is not necessarily a flashy team. They do everything well, and they work hard. So for me, I'm going to go Spencer Steer is a guy that I think out of the Reds, like, people are going to tell me, well, what about Ellie De La Cruz? Ellie De La Cruz has played like 15 games, 16 games. This dude has not played enough. Now, he was offered the home run derby. Now, that would have been fun to watch, but he made the right decision about not doing it. People are like, well, then what about Matt McClain? I'm like, again, I don't think he's had enough games. Remember, Spencer Steer's played since the beginning of the year. He's played all the way through. I think if you're going to look at the Reds, the only player that you really add of that group is Spencer Steer, maybe Jake Fraley, but he's been injured quite a bit. So again, I'm not dissing on the. I'm not trying to say that the Reds deserve a lot of spots. They're. By the way, they have given up the second most runs in the National League, and yet they've scored the fourth most runs in the National League. Right? Their pitching doesn't deserve to be in the All-Star game. Right? It deserves to be on the trash. Right? So, at the end of the day, I think that is what's shocking to me. From the National League side, the American League side, the only thing that's shocking to me is why on God's green earth is Michael Lorenzen your representative for the Tigers. You have Miguel Cabrera, a man who's going to go into the Hall of Fame, who is going to retire as one of the best players of all time. And you decided, no, we're going to put a guy that's about he's like 6-3 with like a 4 something ERA. Come on, guys. I don't get it. It's frustrating. Other than that, I don't really see anything. I disagree with the pitchers. There's probably a few relievers you could swap out. But again, that's just my beef, Josh. You can rip my beef apart if you think it's bad, but I think it's a logical reasoning.
Yeah, so you said a lot right there. So I'm just going to start off in the American League with Josh Naylor. Where's he at?
Oh, that's actually a good one. I didn't think about that one. That's actually a decent one. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is probably going to be a similar situation with Spencer Steer in the National League, with first base being the loaded position that it is. But right now, as it stands, American League, we got Yandy Diaz starting, which no gripes about that.
Nope, no gripes.
And then Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as the reserve, which we talked about last week, what a hyped prospect he was and how that was a guy that I was excited to see and still love in the league. Definitely has the much more sexy name recognition and stuff. But running through the numbers, man, I mean, Naylor's got him beat in a lot of categories. I can go ahead and do a little bit of comparisons right here. I'm getting ready to pull these up, and I'm also going to say that a big reason why Naylor was probably off is because of how bad he started the season. Barely hitting 200, but he heated up in June, and now he's really high in a lot of the main statistical categories.
It's probably the same thing with Spencer Steer. Like the beginning of the year, he kind of struggled. He hit about 250, 260, and then he just went on a tear and hit over 300 for like a month. So I think it's the same thing where it's like he wasn't flashing that, Olsen numbers or the Lonzo numbers. He's not going to hit 30, 40 home runs. He's going to hit 25 home runs, 30 home runs, but he's going to drive in a ton of runs because that's just what he does. So I agree with you on that. I think for both guys.
So batting average, Josh Naylor, 295, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 277. RBIs, Josh Naylor, 60, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 54.
Oh, he had 60. I didn't realize Josh Naylor had 60 RBIs.
60. Wow. It's almost top 5 in the whole entire league.
Wow.
OPS, both are at 804. Josh Naylor slugging percentage, 468, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 455. On base percentage, Josh Naylor, 377. Vlad's got him there at 349. WAR, Josh Naylor, 1, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 1.2. And then finally, that's pretty much the main stuff right there. I was also going to mention, too, with all that said, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has also played in 8 more games this season. So the fact that Naylor's got him beaten some of those totals also says a lot.
I guess it also doesn't help that the Athletics have to put a guy in, so you put Rooker in. That's where Naylor could have went. Again, I will talk about that after you talk about your spiel. I'll go into the whole one per team thing because I think this ties into that. So go ahead.
Sure. So that's Naylor. Wander Franco was initially another one, but like you said, they got him on as an added reserve to replace some injured players. So I guess mistake fixed right there. The other one that I'm going to go ahead and throw out here, I just advocated for a Cleveland guy to get on. I'm also going to advocate for a Cleveland guy to get off. Get Clase off the All-Star roster.
His numbers were not flashy.
I don't care that he's second in the American League in saves with 24. He's got a 3.54 ERA and he's got 5 losses. The guy's not reliable. And that seems to be the case with a lot of Cleveland closers. We'll have a lot of guys get close to high 30s, low 40s saves, and then they'll have an ERA with 4 and
or they'll be like 38 and 48. Like they'll blown like 10 or 11 saves in those many saves that they get.
Right, and we use our closers so much, even in non-save situations. The other day, I think we had a 5-run lead, and we brought Clase in, and he blew the game, and we ended up losing. But it was a non-save situation. It was like we need to bring him in. And out of all the main closers in the league right now, at least all the guys that rank in
Qualify,
like the
yeah.
top 30 or whatever. He's got the most innings pitched. A lot of these guys got like mid to low 30 innings, and he's the only one that's topped 40 innings. So they're using him definitely in non-save situations.
They've done that with Diaz, but the difference with Diaz is that his stuff, I think, is a little more electric when it comes to the off-speed stuff than Clase. And I think he gets a lot more like swings and misses. Not saying that Clase doesn't. What I'm saying is with Diaz, they don't use him all the time, but they're gonna, if they're up, the deal with the Reds is if they're up 4, they'll put him in there, in a non-save situation, get him in for an inning or whatever. But for the most part, if they do that, that's because they don't have confidence in anybody else right now in the bullpen. That's normally why they do that. But he's only blown 1 save. That's the difference. And his ERA is only like 2.14, whereas Clase is 24 saves. Diaz has 24, I believe, as well. But the difference is the way that they finish. I don't think Clase is finishing the way he should be finishing.
Yeah, Diaz has 38 innings of work and 39 appearances. Clase's got 40.2 innings of work and 42 appearances.
So they're about the same in that side of things.
The guy in the American League that I would replace Clase with is from the Angels, and that's Carlos Estevez.
Yeah,
just doing a quick comparison right here. Estevez has 34 innings of work, so he's got 6 less innings. But despite that, he's got 5 more strikeouts, 42 to Clase's 37. He's got a 1.85 ERA to Clase's 3.54, and he's got a 2-1 record compared to Clase's 1-5.
Well, 1-5 just hurts as a closer, man.
It sucks. Like you're always, I feel like, gonna have more often than not more losses than wins because you're never in a winning situation usually, unless you're going into extra innings in the 10th and your team scores 1 run, and then you are supposed to come in and slam the door shut. Then you get the win in that case. So you're always in this position where you're going to get more losses than wins, but 1-5 is ugly. And Estevez has him in all the other main categories. So it's like, what are we doing here?
It's like most closers, like their career record is like, it's usually like, it's like 14 and like 38 or something like that, or 14 and 50. Like it looks terrible when you look at the win. Now, what would you say about the whole Michael Lorenzen thing? I know you said something before we started recording. You were talking about how, you brought the whole Miguel Cabrera thing. Like, do you feel like that should have been if you're going to respect something, at least in an all-star positioning?
That was the last American League point that I was going to bring up too, is Michael Lorenzen with the ERA over 4. Dude. And
it's just awful. I love Michael Lorenzen. Dude, I love Michael Lorenzen. His story is amazing. He played for the Reds. I love him to death. But sorry, dude, you just didn't deserve it this year.
I was initially like, why couldn't they just get somebody good like Riley Green or
Miguel.
Eduardo Rodriguez, someone that's playing good for them this season. But if you got to go with a default, like, why not Miguel Cabrera? Or if you got to go with somebody, I mean, why can't we get one of their relievers? They got some really solid relief pitchers out here. I was telling you, I got to find him again here. They got Jose Cisnero. He's got a 2.18 ERA, 36 strikeouts, a 1.21 WHIP. Like, why? I know he's not a closer, but sometimes if you're a good enough reliever, why not throw him on? Especially if you only get one. Like if you're such a bad team, but you have to pick one, it's by default got to be the best player, and then you just fill the roster. The rest of the way as needed. I feel like.
Yeah, and I think this goes back, and I feel like do you want to talk about your National League before I go into what my segment?
No, we can continue with your American League point.
This is what I was going to say. It's more of like a major league point. This is my thought process, Josh, and I know you'll disagree with me on this. I feel that the All-Star game, I feel like it should be a little bit more like like the NBA. I don't know. The NBA is not one per team, right? The NBA is not one per team.
They couldn't. There's 12 men on the roster, and there's 15 teams per conference.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that I feel like now I get what they're trying to do. They want to represent every city, so they want every team to draw more fans. Like they want to have fans from every team to be at these All-Star games. But I feel like if there's years where you have like the A's, right, where you have the Rockies, like even the Tigers, like. At that point, I feel like we should be able to go like, hey, sorry, your team sucks. It's bad enough that you guys don't deserve to have a representative. Now, I know a lot of people, I'm going to get a lot of flack on this, but I feel like you should just get the best players or the players that make the most sense for an All-Star game. If you're going to honor the All-Star team with the best players in their position, then you shouldn't have a dude that has a 4+ ERA. You shouldn't have a reliever that has 5 losses with a 3+ ERA and is struggling to finish ball games. You shouldn't have a batter who's barely hitting 240. So that's my thoughts on that. I don't know, Josh, you can give your thoughts. Maybe I'm way out of line on this, but I just feel like this is I don't know. I think it might help it to be not as weird and awkward when you have things like Lorenzen making the All-Star team or Rooker making the All-Star team. I'm not saying Rooker's having a bad year, but I'm just saying in general to compare to other guys. What is your thoughts on that? Or do you expand the All-Star roster? I know that every guy will get to play, but do you then expand it by, let's say, 4 or 5 guys, giving some extra guys a spot or two?
So at least years ago when we were kids in the All-Star game, the winner actually
Mattered,
decided home field advantage in the World
which is
Series.
crazy to think about.
I kind of love that, and the whole idea of the whole American League being represented and the whole National League being represented. And the games seemed pretty competitive. Like something was on the line. Like you are literally playing for your team to have home field advantage in the World Series. Yeah. I thought it made for the best All-Star game in all professional sports. And we haven't really had enough All-Star games to go back and be like, since they've changed the rule about it being home field advantage, to say, like, well, now the All-Star game's not all that good anymore. I still feel like we're getting good All-Star games. But I feel like in that context, having one person from every team made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It gave everybody something to play for. And I mean, to an extent, I still kind of like that it's like a whole MLB All-Star game, but I do understand the other side of wanting it to be based on merit. And if it's going to be an All-Star team, like, you should have All-Star numbers.
Like my biggest thing is, like, you wouldn't have a guy in the NBA that's averaging 4 points a game, right? It's like the whole thing with the Pro Bowl in the NFL when you had freaking Hudley from freaking Baltimore who barely played anything and got in a Pro Bowl appearance, right? Like
he got a Pro Bowl appearance though because like 6 guys ahead of him turned it down.
I know, but what I'm saying
that's a little different to me.
But still, though, for me, I'm just like, give it to someone that earns it. I'm just saying, or just don't include him at all.
Sure.
Just saying.
Just to kind of end that too, why couldn't Ruiz from the A's be the All-Star since he's got like 42 steals and a higher batting average? I mean,
have you seen his on-base percentage though? It's atrocious.
This is the other thing. This is the other thing though. Since he's an outfielder, you'd have to take off. Like we'd have to take Julio Rodriguez off, Kyle Tucker,
I mean, Julio Rodriguez,
Garcia, Yordan Alvarez, Austin Hayes, or Luis Roberts.
Yeah.
I don't know which one we would take off instead, but back to my initial point. If we're going to go ahead and put someone on that's mandatory, then you fill up the roster accordingly. So maybe since Julio Rodriguez isn't having as good of a season as he did last year, we don't add him on as the reserve. You know what I mean? Maybe we can add someone like a Miguel Cabrera at DH to replace Rooker, who's the AL DH. And then that fixes the Tigers issue too.
Do you think maybe you just expand the roster by, like, let's say 4 slots? Do you just expand it to add a little more interesting to give guys more of that opportunity that maybe wouldn't have got the chance in a normal, like, I feel like we're always evolving the game. So why not expand the teams a little bit in the All-Star game to honor those guys that maybe do get snubbed because there's 5 good first basemen in front of them or 3 good first basemen in front of them? So what's your thoughts on that? I'm curious because I've heard people say this, like, why don't we expand it so those really good third basemen, maybe there's like 4 good third basemen.
Yeah, it's just, here's the thing though, when you expand something and make more of it available, it takes away more of the meaning. It's not as cool anymore. Course. Yeah. We're going to talk about college football season all year long, probably, about how the 12-team playoff, like, it's not cool to make the playoff. Like, it's not as big of a deal to make a 12-team playoff as it is a 14 playoff. Scarcity, like, if there's less of something, that makes it more valuable and more meaningful.
Yeah.
What you could do is put a cap on the amount of positions that are represented, I guess.
True.
Like, if you want to have just, 2 first basemen and 6 outfielders max, like, I think that's the closest that you could get to it. Or
team limit as well.
The Braves got 8. I was just going to get to that. The Braves got 8 guys.
Yeah.
And when that happens, then you got like the mandatory picks everywhere else, then a lot of guys are going to get left off.
That was my other point. It's kind of ridiculous to see the National League basically be the Braves. It's basically just the Braves team and the Dodgers.
Is. So that kind of ends my American League discussion. We can go to the National League now and talk about some of those Braves picks.
Yes, do it.
So Spencer Steer, I agree, is a snub. But I don't know if I'm taking Matt Olson and Pete Alonso off.
I agree.
And Freddie Freeman starting, definitely not.
Yeah.
Could we possibly make Steer a DH and just take Jorge Soler off? Is that okay?
This is my thing with that. I think what you could do, though, is because Alonso's been injured a lot this year. That would be my only thing, would be like, Yes, he's hit a lot of home runs. Awesome. Same with Olson, but Steer has given you he's a 5-tool player, and that's what he's given you. I think unfortunately the Cincinnati Reds fans, like as much as they're very hyped, it's hard to go against the New York fans and the freaking Atlanta fans. So to me, I think you put him at DH because I think he deserved it, man. Like you look at those numbers and look what he's done on the field, the way he plays, and yeah, from hitting 206 in his limited 20 games last year to now hitting like 280, and just the way he's raking. I think it's frustrating because those kind of guys that are working hard, they work their butts off, and they get beat out by a dude that's hitting 225, but he's hit 30 bombs, right? Like
I was just
do you
gonna say
want?
that even with Pete Alonso's injuries, dude, he's 7th in the league in RBIs and
I
3rd in the
know.
league in home
Yeah, I know.
runs still with the limited
It's
games.
just
And
frustrating.
Matt Olson has the most home runs out of all first basemen in the National League. Matt Olson also has the most RBIs out of all first basemen in the
Yep,
National
I know.
League. So it's tough to like, I guess, pick a guy to take off. But Steer, I feel like you got to fit him on somewhere in there. The other guy that I'm gonna pick on is Juan Soto
Yeah,
because I
that
don't
was
even
another
feel
one
like
too for me.
I
Yeah,
don't even feel like he's the best outfielder on his own
Tatis.
team.
Tatis is the
Why isn't
best.
Tatis? Tatis has played 20 less games, has almost as
Is
many hits as
raking.
him, has more home runs, I believe has more RBIs, has more WAR,
Mm-hmm.
wins above replacement.
Do you feel like it's the money thing? Like the MLB feels like they have to put these dudes that are getting paid ridiculous amount of money. They're just like, we got to get them on the All-Star
Well,
teams.
Tatis is making a heck of a lot of money
That's true
too.
too. Yeah.
I think with Tatis is that the league hates him.
Oh, they hate him so much
They're
with a
still
passion,
punishing him for the steroid suspension.
which is just funny to me. But
He already did his time and he's playing better than Juan Soto. So put him on instead of Juan Soto. Heck, you could put Christian Yelich on over Juan Soto. I'm sure you could find
dude,
someone on the Reds to put on over Juan Soto.
Soto was mouthing at Otani, and he said like, I can handle Otani, and Otani struck him out on a curveball in this first at bat. Like, and Otani just looks at him and just kind of stares at him like, dude, okay, sure, you can beat me.
Yeah. Man, speaking of Otani, dude, he left the game the other day. He
I
might have to
know.
get replaced,
He might
which is
just
a
hit
bummer.
though. He might hit though. They said he might hit. He just won't pitch.
Maybe be able to hit, but not pitch. Yeah. I think that's pretty much all the main ones I had in the National League.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, I mean, it's just, yeah, the MLB All Star Game. I think for me, it's lost a little juice. It used to be, man, it used to be so much fun. Like as a kid, I remember when we were both about the same age, right, and growing up, and you'd listen to Midsummer Classic. I remember we used to
Do
go
you
to
remember
like,
the game that went to like 15 innings
yes,
and
I
it ended
do.
with Justin Morneau sliding into home, winning the
Yeah,
game for
and
the American
I mean,
League?
this is my thing. I remember going to see a movie. I forget what year it was with my dad, and then we came home and watched the MLB game, right? Or we come home and watch the home run derby. Like that week, it was so much fun. It was just fun to have like this, to see all the favorites that you grew up watching. And I still remember when Todd Frazier won the home run derby in Cincinnati. That was tremendous. Those kind of things are what makes MLB such a great game, and the game's growing again, which is awesome to see.
For sure. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much everything.
Who wins the home run
All-Star
derby though?
wise.
Let's say who wins the home run derby. Who's your pick to win the home run derby?
Do we have a full slate
Yes, we
yet?
do. Yes, we do.
All right. Who
It is. Hold on.
I only knew of 6.
Yeah. Home run derby.
They got all 8 picked out though.
Participant. Sorry, I had it pulled up earlier. Um.
Oh, Luis Roberts hopped in, it looks like. So that's
Yeah. So it looks like we have we have Julio Rodriguez, Vladimir Guerrero, Mookie Betts, Randy Arozarena, Pete Alonso, Adley Rutschman, and Luis Robert.
there it is.
Adley Rutschman's a weird one, but that's besides the point. I mean, they did ask. I mean, De La Cruz was the first guy they asked, and he turned them down. He said, "I'm not ready for that." Which I'm like, "Thank you, because every Reds guy that's participated in it, they just go slumping the second half of the year." So, out of this group, I'm going to pick. See, I don't want to pick a Pete Alonso because he's won two times already.
I was gonna say Pete Alonso's won twice, so he's good at this. Julio Rodriguez won once, right?
I'm gonna go with an underdog here. I think I'm gonna take. I'm going to take Mookie Betts. I just have this feeling. I think Mookie Betts is going to
Vlad
come
has
alive.
dominated this before. I don't think he's won one
So
yet.
my thing is, I think it's going to be Mookie Betts with a second place being Adley Rutschman. I think Adley Rutschman might surprise some people.
Hmm.
Who do you got?
Yeah, this one's tough because like some of those guys that you wouldn't expect, like why couldn't Randy Arozarena win it? Why couldn't
Yeah.
Mookie Betts win it? We've
Luis Robert
seen
might be a sneaky one too. He might be a sneaky pick
that
too.
is a sneaky one. He's got some pop too. Yeah, it's a tough one. Maybe this is the year that Vlad Jr. finally wins one.
So you're going to take Vlad Jr. See,
I'm gonna I'm gonna roll with
he slowed down at the end of the end of every round. He started slowing down. That's what worries me about him because of the way his swing is. It's such an arching swing and a loopy swing. I think with Mookie Betts, it's such a compact, quick swing. He's not using as much torque and force as everyone else.
yeah. I mean that's something that maybe like you're a young guy and you learn from it.
Yeah, that's true too. That's
Yeah,
true.
I'll take Vlad Jr. I'll take
All
Vlad
right,
Jr. But
do it.
the home run derby, yeah, you never know who's gonna win that thing.
Never
It
know.
seems like. All
Oh man,
right, MLB All Stars capped. So let's slide over to the NBA now, Ben.
let's do it. Let's do it.
We're talking about with Chris some of the possible moves that could be
Yeah,
happening, and
yeah,
so
yeah.
far we've seen James Harden opt into his contract. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen Chris Middleton stick with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen Russell Westbrook, I believe, stick with the Clippers. There really hasn't been a whole lot of
Chris Paul got
moving
traded.
around. Chris Paul did get traded to Golden State.
Yes, yes. Golden State. Yep.
Let's talk about that trade first,
Yeah, yeah. Let's
since
do it.
I think that's the only
Mhm.
really like crazy thing that's happened in NBA offseason so far.
Yeah.
Really, does it make Golden State better? They still got
I
Curry. They
I would
kept
say
Draymond
this.
Green.
Um, I think it makes them more deep. I feel like when Curry needs a break, you have someone that can run the game. I think you could play both Curry and Paul on the court at the same time. Um, I've heard a lot of analysis saying that this could mean the end of Klay Thompson. There's a lot of people saying that this could be the end of Klay Thompson because he's whenever Steph's not in there, it's the offense looks very bad. Like it just does not look the same.
Clay looked really bad in the playoffs too.
And so my thing is that they still don't have a lot of height. They're the only team that has no one over 6'9". They're a very small oriented team, which it's worked for them. But again, we're in a new generation where big centers take over. To me, I think Chris Paul makes them better in the sense that he can help the young guys develop. I think Steve Kerr is probably one of the only coaches he'll listen to. We know that Chris Paul has issues with listening to coaches, and that might be the only coach he will listen to. And I think it allows Steph Curry to be off the ball more, which is I think where at his career at this point is where he's better at. And so for me, I think yes, he makes them better in a sense, but how long are they willing to keep this experiment up with Clay? What is Clay's point in the offense? That's my one question for them. And we'll see what happens. That's my thoughts.
Yeah, with me, it's a lot like the Bradley Beal trade to the Suns, right? I don't think it makes them a
Such a
lot
weird
better.
thing.
It doesn't fit any needs. Like you said, the Golden State Warriors needed height and maybe a little bit of youthfulness since Draymond, Clay, and Steph are all getting age, and they just add another old small point guard. So
That's
to
the
me,
Lakers 2.0.
the Lakers 2.0. Yeah,
Which they've
so
gotten younger though, so I give credit to the Lakers.
it's not like Chris Paul's a bad player. I think he's still
No.
playing pretty solid basketball. The health issue is always going to be, I guess, something that you got to worry about with him,
Mm-hmm.
just like it is for Clay and even Steph sometimes. So I don't think it makes them worse, but I don't think it really makes them much better. Definitely
Yeah,
didn't expect Golden State to be in that mix to get him.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely a fascinating thing, and again, I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, it'll be fun to see what happens with this group and what happens in the future. But I did think, Josh, I would read over some of the more notable signings that have happened and see if any of these prick your head and say, wow. So we have Malik Beasley. He played for the Lakers last year. He's going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Anthony Edwards obviously has signed to his max deal of $260 million with the Timberwolves,
So far, it
which
looks like he's earned it.
is crazy. I'm trying to see here. Damian Lillard says his choice is Miami for a trade destination. Um, he has he does not have a no trade clause, which means that the Timberwolves could be jerks. Or not Timberwolves, sorry. The Trailblazers could be jerks and just say, no, we're shipping you to freaking Utah. I don't know. But I do think they'll honor him because he's done so much for the organization. I
Yeah,
think wherever he
let's sit
wants
and
to.
talk about this for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Because
Yes, go ahead.
Damian has always been that guy that said he would always stick with one team his whole career. He wouldn't join a super team. He wasn't going to
Yes.
ring chase. It was like a holier than thou mentality, it seemed like, in the era where everybody was hopping teams every 2 years, putting together a new all-star team
Yeah.
and then breaking it up again.
And players have
And
asked
he's
him to
just
leave. Players have asked him to leave and to join them in other places. There has been those notes.
And he has stuck it out in Portland and
100%. Yeah.
had his career wasted. Maybe you could say he's past his prime. He's still playing good ball, but I mean, he's not the same
Yep.
Damian Lillard that he once was, hitting game-winning shots in the playoffs like he was that one time. To me, it's like a little too late thing, but I also understand kind of seeing like, you don't have much more time in the league, and it's like, dang, Portland really hasn't done anything to help me out. They've gotten rid of CJ McCollum,
We got
right?
Scoot Henderson. That's about it.
They got Scoot to help him out. So I mean, Chris Drew might say that he should stick around in
Yeah.
Portland a little bit
Sure.
longer, but I do understand it. I wish he would have done it sooner though, just for him, because I think Damian Lillard's a super likable guy, and if he ends his career without a ring, that sucks.
Do you think he goes to Miami? Do you think that's ultimately where he ends up?
Miami might be a great fit, dude, because he's like a team first player, I'd say,
Yeah.
since he's stuck with Portland so long. I think he would listen to Spoelstra's coaching. Him paired up with Jimmy Butler in the backcourt would be insane. And I mean, it's a guy that's not undrafted that Miami could add
Yeah.
to make them a little bit
Of
deeper.
course. I mean, the one thing is that I'm reading it here is Brian Windhorst has said, which we all know Brian is pretty good at what he does. He said the issue is that the Heat are willing to give up Tyler Hero, which is kind of a
say that I wonder what
shocker,
the Heat would have to give up.
The Blazers aren't interested in him, which means they're going to have to find a fourth team, maybe even 3 or 4 teams, to then somehow do all this pick swapping and player swapping. So I at the end of the day, I think it's going to get done, because I think Damian does not want to go through another rebuild. He's been through about 20 of them in his about 10-year career. So I feel bad for the Trailblazers, because they seem like they thought they hit a gold mine with Greg Oden. They thought they hit a gold mine with Damian Lillard, and they just never could.
Dude, for a minute
The
they were competing, man, with McCollum and Lillard in the backcourt, and I think they had was Wes Matthews there for a little bit.
They had LaMarcus Aldridge as well.
Aldridge there for a minute. Jurkic, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Was a solid big for a minute.
But this is the thing, though, is that the ownership has never been willing to spend a ton of money, and that's the problem. They've always been very hesitant to go out and to get close to that luxury tax, which is another debate for another day. Now,
small market team problems.
Yes, I know. Now, I don't know if you heard about this, but Lonzo Ball, the Bulls are trying to apply for a disabled player exemption because he's going to miss a whole nother year to get money to go get another player, which is
I got a kick out of what that's called, disabled player.
Yes, I know. It's a little bit
like,
weird.
Man, the dude isn't disabled. He just has a really bad injury. Like, he can still walk and stuff, but
Eric Gordon signed with the Suns, adding to another freaking scorer to the freaking team
Eric
of scorers
Gordon
to a 2-year, $6 million deal. They also got added Keita Bates-Diop, a former Ohio State player that was with the Spurs, now has gone to the
I remember Diop.
Phoenix Suns. Miles Bridges has signed his qualifying offer, which means that next year he'll be an unrestricted free agent. It's a 1-year, $7 million deal. I'm trying to look here. Jordan Clarkson signed a 3-year, $55 million deal with the Jazz, staying with the Jazz. It looks like Domantas Sabonis, however you say his name, has agreed to an extension with the Kings, which I did not know if it was going to happen. That's a big step for them. It's going to be $217 million. Wow, it's a lot of money. Let's see. I can't say half of these names, so we're going to skip. Russell Westbrook has re-signed with the Clippers for 2 years, $8 million. It's so funny how far he's dropped in money. Some of these other ones, Dylan Brooks, I know we wanted to talk about this one. He is signed with the Houston Rockets on a 4-year, $80 million deal, with it basically meaning he's going to get a bunch of his money at the beginning, and then it's going to kind of go downhill from there. I wonder what they're saying with this one. But most of the money he's going to get up front, and then it's going to kind of decrease as the year goes on. What is your thoughts on Dylan Brooks? Because JJ Redick is very passionate about Dylan Brooks, if you've heard his
Yes, he
spiels on him.
is.
So what is your
We knew
thoughts?
he wasn't gonna. We knew he wasn't gonna stay in Memphis after that playoff
Yes,
series.
that is
So
true.
I am surprised he also got like an average of 20 million a year.
Yeah, that's a
But
lot for a guy.
the Rockets, I mean, I guess from their vantage point, they got a lot of money to spend, so they got to spend it on somebody.
Yeah,
And they also got a lot of young players on the team. So Brooks has been in the league for a couple years now, so maybe a slightly older presence,
yeah,
another solid guard. I think they got a lot of guards, don't they?
yeah. They do, they do.
Yeah.
Well, and if you look, I mean, this is another thing. Again, Dylan Brooks, it's whatever. I don't really care. I don't want to talk about him. But it just annoys me. But the Cavaliers was another team that what are they going to do? They signed Ty Jerome. It's a backup guard for a 2-year deal. Then they traded for Damian Jones, who used to play for the Warriors. He's like
Yep.
6'10", 6'11". Traded him from the Jazz. I think they traded for basically some compensation, which was very interesting. LaMelo Ball has signed his rookie extension, a $260 million deal, which is just mind boggling. They've signed him. Trying to see Austin Reeves, the guy we did not know what was going to happen to, signed a 4-year extension with the LA Lakers, which is, I think, huge for the Lakers to get in a guy who is one, younger than 30 years old, and two, to a 4-year deal. So that's a very good one. What do you think about the Obi Toppin trade? The Knicks were so high on Obi Toppin, and now they said, "Hey, we're shipping you off to Indiana." What's your thoughts on that? Because this guy was drafted 8th overall in 2019, and now he is just getting shipped off for nothing, literally nothing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what did the Knicks get in return for
They
nothing? You
got
said.
they got 2 future second round picks, which means it's not anywhere close. It's probably like in
Yeah.
2027. It's sad for a guy that was very explosive at Dayton.
Yeah, I mean, since he was also on his rookie deal, it's not like they're like clearing cap space or
No,
anything. They just really legitimately didn't like him.
they
So
hated him. Yep, they hate him. Jeremiah, this one's interesting. I've heard a lot of people very frustrated about this one. Jeremy Grant, right on, like basically right after Damian Lillard requested a trade, they signed Jeremy Grant to a 5-year, $160 million extension. Very interesting with that one.
Portland did that.
Yeah, Portland did that. Fascinating with that one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna lose your franchise point guard, you better go get another one.
That is true. The Lakers extended D'Angelo Russell to a 2-year, $37 million deal, which I think is a great deal for D'Angelo, kind of resurrecting his career in LA, which I think is great. Try to see what else. Europe's most accomplished player this past year, MVP Vasilij Micic from Serbia, has agreed to a 3-year deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Usually these dudes are like 28, 29, so he's an older guy. But again, the Thunder just getting weird dudes to add to that team. Try to see what else here. Anything else? Another guy from the Euro League is also the Cavaliers did a sign and trade. I don't know if you heard about this, Josh, but they traded for Max Struss from the Heat, who signed a 4-year, $63 million deal, which I think is a lot of money for this guy. They traded Chetty Osman, which was the last remaining Cavalier player from the 2018 finals team, which I think is just really bummer. They also traded Lamar Stevens, which I hated because I thought he was a very good defensive player. Max Struss, fun fact, Ben Bowden right here. Yep. I did a scouting report on him back when I was a student assistant at Cedarville when he played in Division II against us at Cedarville. I have that scouting report still on my computer. I just said in the thing, stupid athletic and can score a lot of points. That's pretty much what I put. But he is now playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers. What's your thoughts on what's your thought on that? Adding Max Struss, out of all the guys they could have added throughout free agency, they had Max Struss.
I don't know. What have we been talking about that they need, Ben?
Wing play badly, but they
Yeah.
traded 2 wings though. That was the weird part. Is they traded away 2 wings to get 1 wing,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny.
I don't know if Max is gonna necessarily fix that,
I mean, he did well
but
in the playoffs. He did really well in the playoffs with the Heat.
the one thing I keep hearing though is Jared Allen trade rumors.
Yeah, which scares the daylights out of me because we cannot lose him.
All the offers that I've heard thrown
Are
around, whether
awful.
they're official or not, I hate them all.
They're
I hate
awful.
them. What was the one with Philly offering like Tobias Harris
It
and
was like Tobias Harris, and it was like 4 second-round picks. It was something that was like not even like most of the trades are things that like basically lose, like we lose on the trade. Like it's not even
yeah,
like a
they
winning
were
thing.
all like obvious loses. It's like why would Cleveland even be interested in doing this?
And you also just got Imani Bates. Like, why do you need to why do we need to let's just add pieces around what we have. Let's not take away what we've already got.
Yeah, like we talked about Boston maybe breaking up their core a while
I
ago, but
mean,
Cleveland,
Marcus
I
Smart.
think we need to we need to wait it out a little bit more before we
Yeah.
know what we got.
So what do you think about the Celtics? They got traded away Marcus Smart and they got Porzingis. I think it's the stupidest deal they could have ever done, but that's just my opinion. I
Yeah,
just think
that's
it's
not
so dumb.
exactly what I would have done. I felt like Marcus Smart was a
He's a
solid role
piece.
player.
He's your
Yeah,
piece in that.
yeah. And
Porzingis is
Porzingis, we never know about his health, but when healthy, way better option on as a big
that's
than Al
true.
Horford.
I think anything's better than Al Horford.
Yeah,
What do you think about Victor Oladipo going back to Oklahoma City? He spent a couple seasons in Oklahoma City. What do you think about him getting traded back to Oklahoma City? Do you think he resurrects this career that we thought at one point was going to be tremendous and has kind of fizzled at times?
yeah. Victor Oladipo's kind of had a weird career path, hasn't he?
Oh, so weird. So
It
weird.
becomes an all-star in Indiana on like his third team, and then he gets cocky and leaves for more money, and then he has to like sign a veterans minimum, I think, with Miami.
Yep.
Now he's back in Oklahoma City, like the
Yep.
team that he was initially traded from Orlando, his first team too. So
Yeah.
Oklahoma City is interesting, man.
Oh,
They got a
they're
lot
really
of
interesting.
younger guys. They got a lot of
A
draft
lot of draft
picks, I
picks.
think, and Victor is I guess their veteran leader now in this
Yeah.
case.
I mean, yeah. And you go back to, I think it's cool to see some of these guys go back to their old teams because you have Derrick Rose going to Memphis. He's not his old team, but, he went to college in
Went to
Memphis. So I
college
think
at Memphis,
it's
so
really
City.
cool. Dennis Schroeder's going to the Toronto Raptors. Fred Van Vliet signed $130 million deal with the
Averaging
Houston Rockets.
43.3 million a year. That's like
This,
my favorite contract. Just
oh
point
my
and
God.
laugh at.
Just, and of course it's the Rockets of all the teams. Of course it's the Rockets.
This is where it also gets fun to compare like NBA role player contracts to superstar quarterback contracts in the
Yeah,
NFL.
that is true.
Like
it's
there
that
might
gnarly.
be four quarterbacks that make more money than Fred Van Vliet.
Oh my, it's just weird to even say. But what's also weird is to see that Josh Richardson is back with the Miami Heat and the fact that they kept Kevin Love, which I think is so funny.
Kept
they
Kevin
they
Love. Let's
kept Kevin
go.
Love. They kept Kevin Love. And there's obviously some more. I'm not going to bore everyone with the details because you guys can go look it up yourself. But we wanted to give you like a rundown of what's going on. I know we've been sketchy with the whole NBA. We haven't really talked much about NBA, but Josh, what are your thoughts? Obviously, we both hate summer league. We're not going to spend time talking about it because summer league's stupid. It's just glorified scrimmages. Where where do you see this NBA season? Do you feel like the Nuggets are going to just kind of go through it, or do you feel like we're going to see more parity in the NBA this year with teams pretty even across the board?
I think if a couple balls bounce a little bit different, we could have a completely different results. Like I'm not
Yeah,
gonna count Milwaukee out just
yeah,
because they lost in the first round of Miami. It could have been a fluke job. I mean, a lot of the higher seeds in the Western Conference also
yeah,
lost, and Boston almost completed that comeback against Miami too.
yeah.
So we mentioned that there haven't really been a whole lot of big moves outside of like the Chris Paul trade and the Bradley Beal trades, which we
There's been
don't
a lot
think
of
really makes
small
either
moves though. There've
teams
been a lot
better
of
yet.
small moves
A lot of small ones,
and
and Boston
extensions and stuff like that.
Boston, one of those contenders on the East, has made a couple small moves. We mentioned Miami, a couple small moves. One of those contenders out in the East. James Harden staying in Philly. I think that's super important to keep
Yeah.
him with Embiid. So like I said, a couple guys stay healthy, a couple of balls bounce a little bit differently. Like the league could look a lot different next year, even though
Yeah.
there on paper hasn't really been a ton of big changes.
Do you?
But I really do like Denver's chances to run it back again since they got a lot of their
And
core
they brought
under
everyone
contract.
back. They basically brought everyone
Yeah,
back.
I mean they're gonna have like the whole roster.
Yeah.
The biggest key for them this year was having the supporting cast around Jokic perform. Guys like Gordon balling out and playing good defense, and Jamal Murray balling out and being a great number 2 alongside Jokic.
So my question is, have the Cavaliers done enough in your eyes to put them past where they were last year? Or do you feel like they're about the same or maybe even a slight step back?
So I thought last year they should have won the first round
I
against the
agree.
Knicks, and they
100%.
didn't.
Yeah.
I'm still going to say going into this next season, they can win a first round series. I don't know if they can make a conference finals yet, though.
Yeah.
I still think
do
that
you feel
Milwaukee, I still think that Boston, and I'm going to say Philly and Miami got better rosters overall right now.
Do you feel like the moves that they've done in the offseason, should they have went more bold this offseason, or do you feel like they've added the pieces they need to in order to keep it intact of what's been going on?
I think you still got to let the younger core gel and develop. Just make some of the small moves, like we said, like helping out with wing play.
Bringing Karis LeVert back was huge as well.
Yeah, I don't think we needed to make any splash trade where we send, for example, like Darius Garland and Jared Allen a lot of picks to go and maybe bring in a superstar player to fill in or whatever. I think that Garland and Allen could be all-stars.
Well, they said a rumor about Damian Lillard coming to Cleveland. I'm like, please no. Like let's just keep what we got. Let's just keep what we got.
The quote unquote big 3 of Allen, Mitchell, and Garland, I think, is pretty solid.
And again, we got to
use
use Mitchell as long as we can, because let's be honest, he wants to go back to New York. It's obvious he's going to go back to New York at some point in his career. You got to use him in this window that you have, unless you can somehow.
And it's not much longer, so I guess let's flip it around and say, is the window short and you need to win while you have Mitchell here?
Because this is the thing. I think Garland's going to be here long term. I think Mobley will be here long term. Allen, at least for now, will be here for long term. Question is, can you win while you have? Because it's going to be very hard to rope someone to come up to Cleveland, unless that's LeBron at the end of his career. But who wants a 45-year-old LeBron? But at the end of the day,
it's always tough to get names in Cleveland.
It's true. But yeah, so that's NBA talk. Josh, do we have any other topics, or should we go into our lovely top 5 for the week, which I think had a little more spin than usual on it?
I'll just add one more note on the NBA, since none of us really care about Summer League and seeing Chet Holmgren make his debut, or what Wemby's going to look like against all these guys that are going to get cut eventually anyways.
It's true.
The punishment, the testing out of the punishment for flops, I think, is going to be interesting to see. Kind of like how like robot umpires in like minor league baseball have been tested, and they tested the pitch clock in the minors first.
The flopping thing was
seeing if it really stops the problem of flopping.
It's not going to. It's not.
I don't think it will either. I wonder how they're going to enforce that, and if they're going to like do replays, or.
But see, this is the thing.
Once they call it, it's that.
What if a guy actually gets hit, but it looks like a flop? That's the thing. Like, what if a dude actually gets hit, but it looks like he flops, but he legit is a general reaction? Yeah, like it was a general reaction.
Plays, yeah.
Like, I got hit in the
face.
And
then how often can you review a flop call? You know, like they don't review fouls. So if we're going to call a flop a foul.
This is why I go back to if baseball ever goes to a freaking robot umpire, it's going to lose everything I got to the game. Like I'm just going to be so like demoralized, to be honest with you. You got to let some human error. That's part of the game of sports. Trust me, Josh. I coach football in Europe. Do you know how you think the refs are bad in America? You should come over here. I mean, it's mind-boggling. A dude will be held right in front of a ref, like I'm talking 2 feet, and the guy would be like, there was no hold. And I'm like, excuse me? The man's jersey is ripped across his chest. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to argue. I'm just saying that there's.
Well, that's because he flexed, Ben, and it ripped his jersey.
Right. Yes. Have you seen European dudes in Eastern Europe? Do you think they're ripped that way? Yeah, no, they're not.
Never seen a European soccer game? They're all jacked, Ben.
Yeah, well, that's because they all freaking drink egg yolks for freaking breakfast. But anyways, we are going to move into our top 5. So, Josh, do you want to introduce what our top 5 is, or shall I?
Yeah, we're kind of leaving the sports scene a little bit here with this one, and we're talking about top 5 things about 4th of July, or things to do on 4th of July, or what makes a great 4th of July celebration.
Exactly. Celebrating America.
I'm curious to see if we're going to have any commonalities in this one. There's not a ton of things, and there's going to be like a couple like obvious ones.
So this is the thing
that you got to include.
Let's put in premise here. I'm from the middle of nowhere, Ohio. You're kind of are as well, but you're more of a city guy than I am, though. Like I'm more of like the
Grew
country
up in the
hick.
city limits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the country hick guy. Like I'm the guy that we went out to
You
the
can do a
farm.
lot more things than I could.
That is true. It's true.
So
So do you want to start, Josh? What is your do you any
I'll start
honorable
off with
mentions?
my, what's that?
Any honorable mentions or straight into the top five?
No, I mean, I think my top five is pretty cut and dry, and I think it's
Okay.
far and away. Like there wasn't really anything else that I
Okay.
debated. It was just how am I going to rank these five? So we're gonna start off with five, and this is
All right.
some child nostalgia right here, since I really don't use these anymore, and that's sparklers.
Dude, dude,
Sparklers number five. As a kid, like there really were only 2 days a year that you could do
I
sparklers, and being able to
absolutely.
hold a stick that was
It's
kind of on fire and like wave it around and like write your name in the air and make shapes with it.
take
That was
pictures when you write the name in the air and you take
yes.
a picture and it shows your name.
Yes. Number five, simply because I don't do sparklers anymore, that I'm
You don't do
27.
sparklies? You don't do sparklers at 27?
I don't. Not anymore. But it was a big enough
I feel like
childhood memory and thing that it's got to be included.
see, I feel like the Crane and Company would probably make a joke, but like I feel like 27-year-olds with sparklers is just in the wrong demographic. Dude, 27 walking around bunch of kids with sparklers is probably not a good combination. But I'm actually going to agree with you at number five. I actually thought of this really early
Hmm.
this morning. Sparklers for me too, man. Like sparklers was one of those things where like, did you ever do like the whole like six of them at once and you light them all at once? Maybe I'm just
Uh-uh.
crazy. Um, but I remember like me and my buddies, we would get like, you get two in each hand, and then you would do that. Mom, and I know you're listening. I probably don't realize I did this because I definitely didn't do it in front of you. But yeah, I love sparklers, and it was fun to like you let it burn all the way down, right? It would just like stop and it just goes out. Like there was no like let. But the thing was, it was fun. Was like when you're watching the fireworks, usually at like near where we're at, is people just throw them on the ground thinking it would catch the stuff on fire. I'm like, guys, it's not that powerful, guys. It's just a few sparks. Like
It's not like a cigarette where it's like,
yeah,
is it out all the way? It's like, no, it's out and it's not catching
it's
fire
dead.
anymore.
Yeah,
I don't even
it's
think you could relight
no,
it
you
if you
can't.
wanted
I
to.
think it's like the liquid that they put on it or whatever it is. That
Mm.
was number five for me.
Number five.
Should I go? Should I go four? Should I go four?
Continue with four, Ben.
All right, four for me. Uh, I feel like I never did this too much, even though I am from like hick area and like countryside, craziness. Um, I never did this, but a lot of people would go watch fireworks. They would have the smoke bombs. Like, did you ever see those when you went to watch fireworks? That people just have these colored smoke bombs that they would just light, and then the
Never
whole
have
air would.
participated or been in an area of people
Okay.
participating.
So, but anyways, that for me is number four. Not because I've done it, because I just think it's so fascinating to Fourth of July. Like,
Mm.
it's literally just the only time you ever see a bunch of people with like colored smoke bombs, which I don't even know is illegal anymore. I don't even know. But when I was a kid, that was a huge thing. Putting smoke bombs and coloring the whole area. My mom hated it, and I think my dad did too. I don't know. But anyways, that's for me number
Gotcha.
four.
All right, my number four. I'm gonna go with pools.
Mm.
Typically July, the whole month,
It's hot,
super hot.
especially in
If
Ohio.
you're spending your 4th of July picnic, barbecue, whatever, it's most likely outside if you're having, especially if you're having people over. And if you have the opportunity to cool off for like an hour or two in the pool, it's awesome. So you're playing, you're playing hard, whatever, outside as a kid, or even as an adult, you're outside and you're
Yeah.
just sweating because of how out of shape you are now. Like 90 degrees is it's gonna get to you. So if you can take a dip, in the pool, cool off a little bit. Like the person has an in-ground pool, above ground pool, whatever. That's a nice addition and
So
makes a much better location for a party.
so I will say this. I was never a pool guy growing up. My brother and I really weren't pool guys. So for me, I'm going to put in this position is kind of some similar of like you doing with people when you're on 4th of July is I'd say baseball or like throwing a type of sports ball, right?
Okay.
Football, baseball. Because I remember we go watch the fireworks because, of course, my parents wanted to show up super early, obviously like 2 hours before the fireworks even start, because that's just a normal thing we do. And it would literally just, my brother and I would throw the baseball for like an hour, right? You throw baseball, you might have a little wiffle ball game, right? Like a small wiffle ball game. I remember even board games became a thing we'd go watch. I don't know why. Just
Hmm.
bring board games. But really, I remember always having a football or a baseball. If we were near a basketball court, grabbing a basketball. I don't know. I just think for me that's nostalgia as well. Like even yesterday as I was thinking about July 4th, we're recording this on July 5th. Even as I was thinking about this, that's all that came to mind was playing baseball, throwing the ball around, playing wiffle ball. So for me, that is number 3 for me.
Number 3 for me is kind of along those lines. I threw yard games in here,
Oh, that's a good
which
one.
I
Yeah, I
was
didn't
I
think
was
of that.
thinking more along the lines of like I was saying, I was playing
Hillbilly golf.
some cornhole and spike ball the other day, but I suppose flashing back, like I can remember kickball and
Kickball's a
wiffle
good one.
ball
Yeah.
being included as well with other kids that would come over that were in the neighborhood. So I'll throw a blanket yard games out there and include all those games that you could play in the yard.
What about number 2 for you? Number 2 for you. What do you
Number
got?
two, number two,
This is tough.
that's
1 and 2 for me was extremely hard.
I feel like we might have the same one too, and it's just which one is
Which
most
position?
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 for me is grilled meats. Make the 4th of July picnic.
Get over
Your
it.
burgers, your hot dogs, your brats,
Tofu
all on the
burgers,
grill. Yes. But meat
veggie
on the
burgers.
grill, number 2 for me.
I'm gonna agree with you, man. Like I think this was hard because I think if you're an American and you don't have this in your top 2 of this list, one, you're either a vegetarian or a vegan, which okay, do your thing.
Lame.
Yeah, or whatever. But also you're nuts if you don't have this in your top 2 because I think July 4th is just if you talk to anybody that's from America, if you say July 4th, what do they say? Barbecue, grilling food. But I think on top of just the grilled meats, I think just in general, the barbecue center, right? Having, chips, right? Potato chips, right? Having potato chips, having some
Chips.
having some good like veggies when it comes to like carrots or celery or those kind of things that goes with it. And then obviously the dessert, having good desserts, whether that's ice cream, whether that's,
We had some homemade apple pie and homemade vanilla ice cream
there you
yesterday.
go. See, that's what I'm saying.
Awesome.
So to me, I think the barbecue in general, I agree with you on the meats, but I'm going to add to it and say the barbecue
Yes. The side
in general.
dishes that I also
The chili,
participated in
the chili,
included
the
potato
beans.
salad and baked beans and
Okay, can we first say that?
macaroni
Hold
and
up, hold up.
cheese and
Can we
mixed fruit.
can we
Go for
first
it.
talk about potato salad? I've never understood potato salad. I've tried. I've tried for years. I just can't get my head around potato salad. It's the texture or something. I don't know. I can't do potato salad. I can't.
Do
I
you
can't.
enjoy macaroni salad?
Not really. I don't enjoy things that I feel like should be cooked, not like served like lukewarm or
What
cold.
about pasta salad? So same thing.
Again, awful. Can't
I
stand
don't
it.
really know the difference. I think it's just the type of noodle you use is
Yeah.
different.
It's just I don't like those,
Yeah,
man.
macaroni salad and pasta salad, I've
It's
never
just
really been a fan of the flavor, but potato salad, if you make it with like the right mustard or whatever, I think it's
ugh.
pretty solid.
I'll take beans and freaking a lot of beans over that any day.
Fair enough.
I'll take that.
And I'll say this too. Like I'm picking like 3 or 4 things before I put potato salad on
That's
my plate.
true.
It's just
I
like if there's
agree.
room, I'll put it on. But
It's like it's like when you go to a church potluck and there's like that person that always brings the casserole that everyone hates, and it's just everyone passes it and it just sits in the middle and it just never gets touched. But then you feel bad, so someone has to take a piece because then it's just awkward. But there's always that casserole. What's that? It's usually green bean casseroles. Always at every potluck and KFC.
see, I know a
Those
lot
are
of
two
people that
things.
love green bean casserole as a Thanksgiving
Oh,
dish.
oh
I don't
no!
like it.
It's just no.
But green bean casserole
Sorry,
seems like
like a hospital food.
overhyped.
It's like
A
hospital food.
hospital.
Sorry to
I think
anybody
it's
that likes it.
overrated for sure.
Well, everyone likes it. I'm sorry. I
But the
apologize.
barbecue slash grilled meats, yes. The the food that you eat on 4th of
All right.
July.
Should we say number 1 together? Should we say it? We don't normally do this. Should we do it
You know
together?
what? I don't even think we need to say number 1 because everyone already knows it. That's the end of the list, guys. Number 1 is you know it.
Here we go. On count of 3. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Fireworks.
Fireworks. Yep.
Yeah, buddy. And listen, I want to clarify mine. I'm talking about watching fireworks. I'm talking about the hillbillies that I live around that launch fireworks not straight up in the air, but for some reason they go into side of buildings, or I've seen the videos of people in my area that shoot them under their car and then they get mad because their car got
Or at
damaged.
you.
Or at me, yes, or at me. I think fireworks is one of the most unique things. Like I said earlier in the podcast, I said, yeah, Hungary does do fireworks, and people were like, oh, this has been amazing. Last year was the most they ever did in Budapest. It was like a ton of money. They spent a ton of money on fireworks. I'm looking at it like Yeah, that's about half of what we do. Yeah, that ain't it. And we're talking about like, and people don't realize like 4th of July is celebrated all over the US. So you're talking millions and millions of fireworks that go off in every major city in the US.
Even
Unless
the
you're in
small ones.
unless you're in California where it's more of a never mind. I'm not going to finish that joke. Sorry. We just have to beware of like doing it at the White House, our president might trip or something, and it's a long story. I'm just hitting the political jokes today. But yeah, in general, I feel like it is 4th of July to have fireworks, and if anybody put that at their top two, even either the top one, that you're insane. You're literally insane.
It's
Anything you want to
America's
add?
birthday. It
Anything you
needs
want to add?
fireworks. We don't launch fireworks on my birthday. We don't launch fireworks on your birthday. But for the country, absolutely.
Absolutely. What country? I mean, this is the thing. I do want to say this. We don't normally get political on here, and I'm not trying to get too political here. But it's funny, Josh, how the people that hate our country, that are Americans, they never want to leave, but they will celebrate 4th of July. It just cracks me up, doesn't it? Doesn't it crack you up a little bit? I'm just saying, I'm not trying to
Yeah.
get too political. It's
I mean, when a
fascinating.
when a certain president was elected in 2016, how many people said they were moving to Canada?
Oh, what? Oh, did that? Oh, didn't happen.
Yep, they're all still here.
It is fascinating because you know what? And I will say this, we'll finish the show on this, that America truly is the greatest country on the earth. And the democracy that lives in America, no matter how much you're frustrated with it, I think Josh and I at times are frustrated. Everyone's frustrated at times. I do want to say, and from both of us, is that, hey, we are proud to be Americans, right? And in the good and the bad, whether it's terrible or it's great, whoever's leading our country, like, we still believe in what America stands for. I'm living in another country right now, and I can tell you this, that I've been seeing other countries around here, man. And we are very blessed to be American. And I hope everyone out there understands that. I hope you've had a great 4th of July. I hope you've enjoyed this time of spending time with family and friends. I mean, how many people get to say, hey, in the middle of the week, I get to take a day off of work? Not many, to celebrate a birthday of America. So yeah, it's truly awesome. I know, Josh, you probably ditto what I just said, but
Yep, facts.
Facts are always going to win. Let's just say that. So we hope we're going to continue praying for America. We hope you pray for America. Hope that God continues to bless America. But if you've enjoyed watching this episode of the podcast, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell on YouTube. We have a bunch of other episodes that are out. And as the end of the summer, it gets a little weird here with me going to the States, and there's a lot of other things going on. I've been working behind the scenes to get some things somewhat updated, so that way we can post them as I'm away, and you will have some type of content. It might just be recaps of certain things, especially like maybe top fives and things like that. But that is happening behind the scenes, and hopefully it'll be done at some point. But outside of that, if you've also enjoyed Spotify, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you favorite us. Make sure you share the link with friends and family. It is much appreciated. And I know Josh and I both hope you have a great weekend. Hope you guys have a great start of your July. Before you know it, it's going to be Christmas. It's weird to say, but before I know it's going to be here. It's going to be cold and everything. But college football is coming soon, Josh. So is the NFL. It's going to be a hyped year for the Baseline Podcast. So hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And until next time, we'll see ya.